If you're newlyweds, getting a joint account doesn't really end your money fights. Today, I'm going to talk about three things. First is how my wife and I didn't get our joint accounts until pretty much the last part of our whole merging money together. Number two, why joint accounts doesn't really end your money fights. And then number three, how you can tell when you're ready to start merging all your money into joint accounts if you ever should. And I know all of this works because I had a post get it to the front page of Reddit. And after 400,000 views and 17,000 upvotes and 1,700 comments, reading through all of those comments, what I learned is that there are many happy marriages where everything is separate, everything is joint, or there's some combination. So welcome to Adulting with Money. I'm Dan Hines. Let's get started. So let me take you back to when my wife and I were first married and we were living in an apartment together, and it was hard trying to manage our money at the same time because I was a financial advisor at the time. So my income was part salary, part commission. So it was going up and down, and I was only getting paid once a month. And then my wife, her job was hourly, and her hours, she wasn't really sure how much she would be making in a week, and it would go up and down depending on the tourism season. And so trying to figure out, okay, how much is coming in here and here was really tough. Plus, everything was separate. Everything was still in separate accounts. Because you've probably gone through it before as well, where before marriage, or maybe as soon as you get married, you sit down and have kind of a small money talk and decide, okay, let's do separate accounts and then have one big joint account, and that's where we'll pay the bills. But when it comes to getting married, you plan the wedding, you have the honeymoon, and then you've got all the thank you notes that you've got to send out, and eventually you might get back to talking about money. And that's how it was for me and my wife. And what we did was to start talking about money together and start using software and apps to track our money. And we eventually got around to getting joint accounts. But we really didn't get there until we moved. We were in an apartment. We ended up buying a house, and the house that we're now living in is near a bank. And I knew a guy that worked at the bank. So I'm like, hey, let's just move all our accounts. And so moving all of our accounts from our old banks to this new bank, we thought, well, if we're opening new accounts, we might as well make them joint. And that was probably a year after we were married. And so getting joint accounts is helpful. It's wonderful. It makes your life easier, but it's not usually the same step, or at least not the first step. The first thing about joint accounts is they don't really move the needle on communication. If you're bad about talking with your partner before getting a joint account, you're going to be bad at talking with your partner about money after getting a joint account. The best analogy that I have, it's like buying brand new Nikes to try to lose weight and go running. Like, it's nice that you have the Nikes, but until you actually go running, then nothing's going to get solved. In fact, you really didn't need the nice new Nikes. The habit you needed to develop was to actually go running and to start exercising. And then you can make your running better by getting a new pair of Nikes later. All right, so point number two is that people in the couples that I work with, when it comes to their goals, joint accounts aren't really on their list of goals. Their goals are saving up for a house. How do we think about starting to have kids? How do we get out of debt? What should we do about our debt? Can we buy a new car? And so getting a joint account isn't usually a goal that a couple is working on. It's good to do eventually, but it's not the first thing. So number three is that getting joint accounts doesn't really stop any bad financial habits. If you're a bit of a shopaholic, getting a joint account with your partner isn't really going to stop that. Or if your partner is the shopaholic, then getting joint accounts, it'll add guilt to their life, but it's not really going to stop the underlying cause. And then number four, I alluded to this earlier, but you really don't need to have joint accounts to manage your money jointly. Is that apps and software like Mint and YNAB and Quicken? Don't get QuickBooks. That's too complicated for what you need. But when it comes to software, is that you can pull all of your information into one spot and have one place to look at all your money and manage all your money, but you don't actually need to get joint accounts to make that happen. Technology is wonderful these days, and that's what it's great for. All right, so now I want to talk about what joint accounts are actually good for. Honestly, they just make your life easier. If you don't have so many banks and so many accounts that you're trying to track and that you're trying to keep an eye on, then getting joint accounts is absolutely wonderful. And like my wife and I, we didn't get our joint accounts until it became convenient and it just made things easier. Like, okay, now we only have one bank that we need to drive to deposit anything. It's only one bank that we need to go to solve any problems. We know the people at this bank and they can help us solve this problem. So getting joint accounts is great, but it's logistics. It's secondary. Your primary goal needs to be having money talks on a regular basis. What are your goals? How are things going? What do you need to do next? What's the budget going to look like? And how is that going to then affect your goals and where money's coming from, where is it going, and how you're going to budget for the next month? Okay, so if you already have joint accounts, that's fine. Don't rush out to get rid of them. It's okay, keep them. If you don't have joint accounts and you're newlyweds and you've been thinking about it, you also don't have to rush out and get them. The primary goal for you is to have better communication. Talk about money more regularly. Eventually, you want to have joint accounts so that you don't have to make sure the right amount of money is in the right account at the right time. When you get joint accounts, you don't have to worry so much about who's paying the bill. The bills just get paid, and you don't have to worry about how much money is in there as much because it's all coming from one account. So joint accounts are wonderful. And so how do you know when you're ready to get joint accounts? To be honest, you'll have a gut feeling. Is that to say, okay, we're good at handling money. We know how to budget. We know what our goals are. Things are getting done. Let's get joint accounts to make our lives easier. And you're going to have that gut reaction to say, oh, okay, having all these separate accounts everywhere is just annoying. Let's combine everything to make our lives easier. And that's when you know you'll be ready for joint accounts. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Click that red subscribe button and you'll be sure to get all my videos every single week. Take care.